Alright, hey guys, let me pull up my chair real quick. And this is part 2 to my first video, which was smoothing the trigger bar on the Beretta 92FS to smoothing the trigger pull slightly. Now, this video being part 2 is going to be taking the rest of the parts to, including the hammer and the sear, and polishing certain areas, critical areas, to achieve the maximum or optimal trigger pull for your single action and double action, and giving you a crisp trigger and crisp single action trigger snap. So now real quick, I'm going to highlight some areas of this video for you. I'm not going to go into great detail about removing the hammer and the sear. Now, what I will do is I spent days, hours collecting all the information from YouTube. And the reason I'm doing this, there isn't really much information on YouTube about the Beretta and how to specifically polish and where to polish. There were certain areas I found, forums and other publications, some books, some magazines I went to, and I'm taking all this information I found so you guys don't have to take the time to look for it. You can come right here to this video and get basically the most important information you need to do this. Now again, this is taking stock Beretta parts and achieving the optimal trigger that you can using stock parts, and that includes using the stock hammer spring. Taking it one more step further, you could buy the D spring or the upgraded spring or a lighter spring through Brownells, Midway, any of those companies, and help it out that much more. But this is really, now that would be taking away from the fact that this is using stock parts to achieve the optimal pull. And the reason I'm doing that is because you can buy all kinds of performance parts and upgraded parts for this gun, but really in theory here, you need to do polishing work to the stock parts, and certain stock parts like this, I've never seen a part that people sold that's already polished, or really high polished. So again, for anybody who's, again, not beginner or your first firearm, but if you bought the Beretta, you've had it for a little while and it's out of the box, this is something you can do to optimize your trigger pull and even improve this double action as much as a double action can be improved. Now, again, I collected this information from a few sources, which I'm going to give credit to, but I'm taking all this information so you don't have to take the time I took and putting it all together and showing you what to do. Now, I will talk about part of the disassembly, as far as there's a YouTuber that has great videos, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it's Child of July. If you search out on the YouTube search for, it's one word, Child of July, and search that, you will find he does a great amount of videos on disassembly of the Beretta 92FS and all of the components on the frame. He stays away from the slide area just because like the safety and stuff. I was trying to find a good video on that because this is a pretty complicated area to deal with, and it losing parts is pretty common for that. So only video he does do with the slide is the extractor, but this is just for conversation. So we'll get back to the trigger. Now, again, if you're looking, and I recommend going to his videos, watching them 5 or 10 times over. I think his longest video is 2 minutes. His videos are pretty short and sweet, right to the point. Really detailed, good quality video, much better than mine on how to disassemble these parts. So go there, watch that, get yourself prepared to take it apart, and then hopefully you'll come back here and I'll show you what you want to do once you have your parts. Because I haven't, when I wanted to do this, I had a hard time finding the information that I needed, and now that I've gathered it all, I'm making this video for everybody out there who has the 92 and wants to do it. So basically the components that we're going to be removing is first off is your trigger bar. Okay, not hard to remove. The trigger bar right here. Okay, the trigger bar spring right there. Okay, and then kind of in order here, your lanyard loop, which allows you to get the main or hammer spring out. Okay, the pin that goes through the frame right here, okay, and I'll get back to that. That's one of the points I'm going to bring up. And then taking off the hammer strut, okay, and then last but not least, your sear and sear spring, which are also held in by a pin. Now, once you have your grips taken off of your gun and your slide taken off, the first part you're going to want to do, like I said, is remove your trigger bar. Okay, not really hard to do. I'm going to try to get as much of this in the video as I can. I know I have a hard time doing that with the camera I have, but you're going to take a trigger bar off, okay? And I recommend getting yourself, this came with my Beretta, it's a little parts cup, but a little magnetic tray, something to put parts in, alright? Keep your parts the way you won't lose any, okay? And if you're going to be leaving the gun overnight, I recommend, especially if it's taken down like this, put it in a, I always keep mine in some sort of a, plastic bag, just to keep any lint or any dust getting in there, or any type of, anything else that could get in there and contaminate it or gunk it up, so. I did do this in 2 days, but like I said, gathering the information took a lot longer, so hopefully this video will help somebody, just kind of point them in the right direction, what to do, where to do it, and how to do it. So now, again, once you take taking the lanyard loop out, which will allow you to take out your mainspring or hammer spring, okay, and then the step after that would be taking your hammer out, and then your hammer strut. Now, if you go to Child of July and watch his videos, he has a good video showing you how to remove the lanyard loop and mainspring. Now, in his video, I'm sure he's taken his gun apart many times. His pin is able to be pushed out. The only tool he uses for that gun, or most of his videos, is a pair of tweezers and 2 different types of Allen keys. This is a 3mm. This is a 1.5. I also use a punch, a 1.5mm punch, which does the rest of the pins, or most of the pins on the Beretta. Now, an Allen key like this does have some advantages for this job we're going to be doing, and I'll explain that. So, basically the spring is in the grip part here, and it's held in by this lanyard loop, okay? And the pin goes through that. Now, in his video, he'll show you, and I've seen other videos where people will just take their hammer and they'll start smacking down on the pin and force it out. The way you're going to want to do it is, if you notice, when you depress your pin or your lanyard loop and push it down on a hard surface, you'll be able to basically depress this and push against the spring tension on it. Now, that's how you're going to want to really do it. You're going to want to depress that just enough. You don't want to press it all the way, just enough, which will allow you to take some pressure off of this pin. And you can take your Allen key, set it in there just a little bit. There's a little space that allows you to get it till you hit the pin. And then what I use is a light tacking hammer. It's only 5 ounces. It's got a nice flat surface to it, and it allows you to get a nice hit on it, okay, without using too much force behind the head of the hammer. And you just basically got to tap real lightly, okay? I mean, that's it. Not much more than that. A little bit more, but not much. And that'll allow that pin to start sliding. Now, once the pin starts sliding out, I was able to actually take my Allen key and push it out the rest of the way. So in his video, it just almost falls out, which if you've never taken yours out, it's not going to fall out. You do got to help it, but regardless, this is how you come up with your way to do it. Just make sure that you depress this lanyard loop a little bit to take some of the pressure off. That'll make it easier. Now, once you have the pin out, you're going to want to slowly lift up on the frame, and then once you can get your finger in there, grab that lanyard loop and pull it up slowly, or everything, that'll keep everything from shooting away on you and allow you to not lose parts. So once that, the spring will come out too. Now, once that's lanyard loop and spring are out, you're going to hear something slapping around in there. That's the hammer strut, okay? At this time, you'll still have your hammer on top, but basically the hammer strut is just in there, and it can only come out the top, so don't try to take it out the bottom, okay? That'll be in there. Once the hammer comes off, you'll be able just to tap it off, and your hammer strut will come right out, okay? Now, again, for the hammer, the next step, taking that hammer off, real easy. It's in there, okay? And you'll just have to press it a little bit in, which will press against the sear and cause the hole to line up for this pin right here. Now, this pin, once you press the hammer in a little bit, depress it, and line these holes up, this pin comes right out real easily, okay? So that you won't have a problem getting that out. Once you have that pin out, your hammer is going to come out, okay? You'll be able to tip the gun upside down and get your hammer strut out. So now that's all that's left to remove would be your sear, okay, and your sear spring, which is also held in by a pin right here on this part of the frame, right there. So now this one I used a 1.5 or 1.5, metric system. Here we go, millimeter Allen key. Okay, now this pin on mine, I've never taken it out. This is the first time, and it was able to come right out. I was able just to push it out. Now what you're going to have to do when you'll watch Child of July's videos is put your thumb there to hold the spring from going anywhere, and start pushing the pin out. Now as you push the pin, and the pin clears the actual center hole here, and once the pin clears that, as you're pushing it out, okay, it's going to clear that, and the spring's going to kind of pop up a little bit. Now your thumb will be holding it from keeping it from going anywhere, but once it does, you're going to have to kind of use your thumb or a tool to push back down on the spring to line the hole up better, and you'll be able to push this out, and it'll come right out. So once that's out, and you have your spring out, do a little tap action, or reach in there and grab it and tap it, and the sear will come right out. So now you'll have all of your parts out again. You'll have your sear, what you're going to need, your sear right here, you'll need that, and your hammer strut, okay? Now, again, my first video shows the areas you want to do on your trigger bar. I'll just kind of recap. It's the flat areas here, and then anywhere the trigger bar contacts the, on the back side here, this whole rolled area, the flat here, and I just did this top part too, okay, before it contacts the slide and stuff. So, then the safety. Now, do your trigger bar first, alright? Now once that's done, you set it aside, you're ready to do your other parts, again, which include the hammer, the sear. I'm hoping I'm getting this into video here. I'm not great at all doing videos, or great with computers at all. So, and your hammer strut. Those are the three parts you're going to be polishing. Now I started with the hammer, and what I did take is where I found the information at on how to, in the critical areas to actually polish after looking for a while, was BerettaForums.net. I recommend you go there, join the forum, get involved. There's a lot of really good information on there for all types of Beretta firearms, and if you find some useful information and you have the means to do it, they have a donate button. You can donate $1 or so, whatever you feel comfortable doing, and that kind of helps keep the site up and running and funds that and continues to fund people who help us out with our firearms, because nothing's worse than feeling like you broke something or lost and your gun's apart, and that's a terrible feeling, to feel like you might not get it back together. So check out Beretta Forums. I'm going to give them the credit, for a lot of the information being found there. And I'm just taking all this information and put it in video form on YouTube, because I haven't found a really good video or seen anything on YouTube when I searched what I was looking for. So hopefully somebody else will be looking for this information and be able to use this and find it to help them. Alright, now I have a rudimentary drawing I did of the hammer. I will show you in a minute, but basically the hammer would be installed in the gun like this. Now, rotating it back, okay, I'm going to show you the parts of it where you're going to need to do most of your work at. Now, the hammer being back, you have three main areas right here. You got this part right here, the very first notch, which is your double action. You don't need to do anything. I'm sorry, that is your half cock. You do not need to do anything there. The most pronounced and raised area right here that's your single action, okay? That's where we're going to do polishing at. And then the last one here, the third one, is your double action, alright? So when you take yours out and you look at it, you're going to see a flat edge here and then a 90-degree down. So basically, on that single action right here, you're going to see it's going to look a lot like this. And you're going to want to do the flat right here and then the upper part of that 90-degree angle. Polish both of those. Now I used 1000 grit sandpaper to start and 1500 to finish and do the polishing. You can sand however direction you feel comfortable or want to do, the best way you can do to remove the finish. But remember, when you finish and use 1500 and polish everything, you want to polish everything in the direction, all the polishing lines in the same direction of the movement or rotation. So that'll give you the even a better smoothness in your trigger pull. So make sure you finish all of your sanding lines in this direction, okay? So I'm going to really quickly show you my stupid drawing that might help if you can't see that hammer well enough, and try to show you again I'm not a drawer at all, exploded diagram I made, and it has, again, the information where to find some of this stuff at if you want to look at it yourself. But, again, that's Beretta Forms and Child of July. But if you look here at the hammer, okay, you have this first notch right here, half cock. We're not going to mess with that. And then this one right here is your single action. Now, if you were to look at it like I was showing you, you have almost a 90-degree angle right here, okay? So you're going to want to do the top part of that and then the other half of that L shape. It's basically an L shape. You want to do that. I also did in this area right here. I polished that too, just for the heck of it, okay? So basically this whole part you're going to want to do some polishing on. Again, the top part there and down this L shape, you can almost see that little L I drew. That's where you're going to concentrate most of your polishing on. And then on the last part here, that is your double action, okay? You'll see these little teeth right here when you look at yours. You're just going to want to basically do the points of those teeth, a little underneath and a little on top. And again, I did this whole area right here where it rolls, okay? Where it rotates and rolls at. So, again, these are the critical areas you want to concentrate on. For double action right here, these teeth. And then on the single action, you know, that little L shape right there is where you're going to do most of your polishing at. And then you can do down in here too, alright? So, everybody get a good laugh at that drawing. But I figured if you can't see the hammer as well, what I'm talking about, until you actually take yours off, that might help you. So, again, if you go to BerettaForums.net, that's where I found the original rudimentary drawing somebody was good enough to do, and very helpful, which led me to this. So, again, those are the main areas you're going to want to do. Now, also, where the pin goes through and where it rotates at and pivots at, the pivot point, there's two raised circled areas right here. You're going to want to polish those too. And I finished that off with 1500 in a circular motion. That's how I finished that. Instead of going one direction, I did a circular motion for polishing, okay? And then the other areas is where it contacts the frame and rubs is right here, okay, on that side and on that side. Polish that. And then this back tooth right here, if you were to take the hammer and kind of just flip it over, there's just one tooth right here. I also polished that, okay? So that's the hammer. If you have any questions or need to see anything, I can always email somebody some information, or would be willing to do whatever they needed to help them out with this project, okay? Now we're going to move on to the hammer strut. Real easy. The hammer strut, where this basically sits in here, and it pivots on that point, okay? That's where that pivot's at. I did just the side walls of that, okay? And then the whole top surface here of that little ball on top, okay? That's real easy. That's all you have to do there. Now, let's see. The sear, okay? We have the sear here. This is how, if you had the gun this direction, okay? This is how the sear's in there, okay? Now you have these top teeth. I'm going to keep referring to them as teeth. That's all I know them as. I don't know the technical term, but you have these two points that stick out right here, all right? Again, this is pretty easy to do. Again, this is another 90-degree L shape right here on this top, okay? It's like this. Hopefully you can see that in the camera view, okay? If you look at it, okay, you have the flat right here and then the down part. You're going to want to polish this part of the flat and then going down. That's all. That little 90-degree angle right there, that L shape. Polish both of those. Now, again, on the bottom one here, you're only going to have to do the right-hand side. If this was installed in the gun, okay, the trigger bar, get my big hands out of the way. This is where the trigger bar contacts that at, okay? So that's where you only need to do on this bottom edge or bottom tooth, you only have to do from the halfway point and over, okay? The halfway point and over. Just the flat, just the top part of it, okay? You don't have to do underneath or the bottom or the top. Just halfway over that flat part, and that's easy. I think sanding the sear took me and polishing took me 10-15 minutes, if that. So, again, on the top part of the sear, you're going to want to do this 90-degree angle right here. Polish that nice again. Keep your polishing lines in this direction, okay? Up and down, back to front. And then just the flat part here on this bottom tooth, and only the right-hand side, okay? See if you guys can see that or not. Just the halfway part of it, okay? And again, just like the hammer, you have the pivot point of the sear. You're going to want to do the outside here on the sides of these circles, polish those at the pivot point, which will give you a smoother pivot. All right. So that's really it for polishing. You got the hammer, the sear, the hammer strut, and then the trigger bar, which I already made a video on. So that's those pieces. Now, really, once you polish those and do a really good job on them and throw it back together, you're going to see a difference. The only other way you could take this one more step would be to switch out your hammer spring. Okay, this again being a stock video, this is a stock spring. I'm doing some research and trying to figure out, I mean, I could just buy a D spring, but again, I'm all about using the stock parts. Somebody was saying that, I'm not sure, they seem like a pretty reputable person, but I don't like the hack stock parts, even though I could get, if I bought a stock part, I may as well buy the D spring. But you could take, if you've ever seen the D spring side by side with the stock one, all it is a couple it's shorter. Now, I don't know if the actual shape of the coil is more of a D-shaped coil compared to a circular coil, but someone said you could take 3 or 4 coils off of your stock spring. And I mean, I see the point that it definitely would relieve spring tension. I just don't know how smart it is or there'll be any major disadvantages. So maybe I'll see if I can't find a stock spring, and try that so I can stick with my stock theme and do that. If not, go ahead and buy a D spring if you can find one. I know they are out there. Some parts of the year, sometimes they're hard to find, but and if you do that, that's just going to help it even that much more. So that's really the video. I just wanted again to show you guys where to polish at, how to polish it, the main critical areas you're going to want to polish. And I'm going to reassemble mine right now. All my parts are done. I'm going to put it back together and then do a follow-up video of my results so I can let you guys know. I'm positive it's definitely worth it. So that's why I went ahead and did this. Like, I'd take maybe a weekend or something, do it on a weekend, or you got some free time. Don't expect to do it in a half hour, an hour. This is not something you want to rush, but again, I don't think it's extraordinarily hard to do, as long as you're somewhat, decent with tools. You don't have to be a master mechanic, but the most important thing is taking your time and being cautious as far as observant and watching what you're doing. Now, I'm going to caution people, do not use a Dremel or rotary tool to do these parts. Okay, now, you're going to take way too much material off. It's way too hard to control the amount of material you're taking off. And messing with the sear, you don't want to make bad things happen. And I'm pretty sure you know what I mean by bad things happening. So, you don't want to get in trouble with the law or doing anything stupid that you can't reverse without having to buy a new part. So, even doing something silly by accident is still going to get you in trouble. So, use just, like I said, 1000 grit, 1500 grit sandpaper. I was able to, do all this stuff by that. The thing that took the longest was the trigger bar. Okay, it's got a lot more surface area, and it's just a lot of funny angles and stuff to get to. But the longer you spend, the better you do, the better your results will be. I guess that's really it. If you guys have any comments, or you guys, you do this, I'd like to hear how it turned out for you. I'm going to do a video and show you how it turned out for me. Again, I want to give, so you guys can, at least if you don't understand me, or hear what I can say, it's Child of July. Hopefully you can see that, or BerettaForums.net. Give them credit for a lot of their good information that I used. And again, this video, I don't want to be claimed for stealing the information. That's why I'm giving them the credit. But the information to do this is spread out everywhere. It's just everywhere. And I'm taking all that information, the most important parts of it, and throwing it together in this video. When this started, I searched Beretta. I searched for Beretta stuff on YouTube, and there's a lot of Beretta stuff, a lot of reviews, all kinds of reviews for the gun, and all kinds of people just showing you how they install their parts they bought out of the mail, which is cool too. But I didn't really see anything for polishing the trigger, all the mechanisms and where to do it. So hopefully this will be, if somebody wants to look for it like I did, they'll find this and find it useful. Alright guys, I don't think I'm missing anything here. As far as reinstall, I know that, again, the hammer strut has to go back through the top, nothing in the bottom. I know the sear can be a little tricky getting back in, but again, watch Child of July's videos, and he has some great videos on reinstalling everything, and he does it the proper way. He may not use the exact proper tools, because in most gunsmiths, I would agree, you know, an Allen key is not a proper tool, but I think Brownells has a Beretta toolkit, which really doesn't consist of that much stuff. I think Arkansas stone and some other stones and tools, which is like $300 or something, $250, which is cool. But if you can do the same thing with these tools, then yeah, you know, it might make a real gunsmith cringe, but if it works, it works. I mean, you know, it's just effective and it serves its purpose, so why not? But if you guys again have any questions or comments, I'm open to them. Like I said, this video is just to kind of bring all that information together and allow you to optimize your trigger pull. So, alright guys, have fun with it.